All right. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to our Grants Pass School Board meeting on January 12th. We will call our meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and we will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if all would rise and join me. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. We do have a number of individuals who are joining us tonight on Zoom, and if any member of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, we ask that you please put the following in the Zoom chat: your name, school district in which you reside, as well as the agenda item for which you'd like to make a comment. And then we will monitor the chat and call upon individuals after a report or agenda item has been presented and the board has concluded its discussion. Of note, we'd like to limit all comments this evening to 3 minutes per individual, and that too will be monitored by Dr. Bloomquist. So, but we're grateful that you're here, and we're willing to listen to your comments, and thank you for participating with us this evening. So our first item on our agenda is 2.1, written communications, and so I will turn it over to our superintendent.
We just received one additional written communication, actually two. Both are from patrons who are intending to speak to the agenda item later on in the agenda. So the board has those in front of them at this time.
Okay. Dr. Bloomquist, do we have any other individuals wishing to make any comments?
We have Jill Hansen, who's, who would like to make a comment regarding the equity, diversity, inclusion resolution.
Okay, we will do that when we get to that agenda item and the board has concluded its discussion.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Item 2.3, recognition of school board. Hereby you are all recognized. We recognize you.
And Superintendent Kolb has a few words of gratitude on behalf of many. So I just want to acknowledge the challenges of a school board and all that you do for our community. You create a vision for what students should know and be able to do. You establish clear standards for student performance. You ensure that student assessments are tied to established standards. You're accountable to the community for operating schools that support student achievement. School boards align district resources to ensure that students meet standards. School boards create climate that supports the philosophy that all children can learn at high levels. You build collaborative relationships based on trust, teamwork, and shared accountability. And you are committed to continuous education and training on issues related to student achievement. So it's with great appreciation on behalf of Grants Pass School District employees that we express our sincere gratitude for your service and dedication to our students, staff, and families, and invite the entire community of Grants Pass to join us in celebrating School Board Recognition Month. And a little token, Ms. Doan over here put together a fancy little charcuterie, if anybody could spell it, bonus points for board members, as well as a certificate of recognition. And I personally want to thank the board in appreciation of your support. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Tanya.
Tanya.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're speaking my love language.
There's
Weird.
a lot of love languages going on here. That's great. All right. Number 3.0, our consent agenda. We need to approve our board agenda for this evening, our board draft minutes for our last meeting on December 8th, financial report and personnel report.
And I'm going to ask that the board modify this current agenda to add confidential personnel matters to executive session in light of recent events.
You need a motion.
So we need a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Connie, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Member De La Grange,
Yes.
Member Durbin,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Board
Board Chair Nelson,
Yes.
Member Coleman,
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. All right, on to our reports. So staff reports, our principals reports. We'll start with elementary.
Elementary principals, turning it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening, actually. I'll start, and I'm going to speak on behalf of all the elementary schools regarding our limited in-person instruction. Despite not having students here in the hybrid schedule, we're still able to serve 236 students at the different elementary schools with limited in-person. These students are currently broken up into 66 different cohorts. This averages out to be about 4 students per cohort. We have students attending limited in-person in all grades, K through 5. We've determined these students based on academic needs, students who are currently on IEPs or are in the IPM process, or students who are unable to join live meetings for one reason or another. And these might be because they don't have adequate internet service, minimal or no support at home, or students who currently are considered homeless. These students typically attend school for 2 hours a day throughout the week, and they receive small group support from our classified and certified staff. And that's limited in person for the elementary schools. I'll pass it on.
Hey, welcome, good evening, Happy New Year from the Northwest corner. I wanted to talk to you about our second steps. As you may or may not remember, depending on how much information your brain can hold on to. Second steps is our adopted social emotional learning curriculum. They've just released a new unit we're excited about that's called Community Rebuilding, and its focus is really about bringing kids back into school that have not been in the school for a long time. So this has been passed out to the behavior intervention specialists in each building. And we're hoping to implement this as soon as we are able to get kids back in the building. Some of the areas of focus for kindergarten and first grade is just meet the class, exploring classroom rules. Second and third grade, exploring classroom norms. They actually have creating a We Are poster, which is kind of a cool idea. Fourth and fifth, meet the class, our classroom community, learning about my classroom. Remembering our fourth and fifth graders, we have students who've never set foot in our buildings and they only know their teacher and their classmates from the neck up. So we are excited to roll this out as soon as we get kids back in our buildings. So that's it for me, and I will pass it on to Miss Kelly from Lincoln.
Hi, everybody. I was going to just let you know a little bit about, we're all working out of this distance learning playbook, which has been super helpful. And we are currently diving in as we're kind of thinking about what are hopeful for a return, and really looking at digging into student engagement. And so looking at 3 different components of student engagement and coming up with, actual strategies and supports for teachers as they look at their the engagement. And we're also then looking at the end. Am I echoing all of you guys, or is it just on my? I'm echoing. Oh, sorry. Okay. Looking at the last kind of chapter in the book, that what opportunities can we find in crisis, right? And so I know that Barrett really had kicked off with the Character Strong curriculum, and I know Christine and I have dived in with the deep kindness work. And one of the books that comes from that also is talking about how we can systematically build opportunities out of the crisis that we've been experiencing. So really getting the staff to look at how can we use what we've learned during this time to make schools better. And that crisis provides that opportunity for us to do things that we couldn't do before. And so really being mindful about what elements do we keep as we move forward. And we're really using the work out of that distance learning playbook to be reflective and to plan moving forward, because I think we've found a lot of things that have been challenging, but a lot of things that have gone really well. PBIS, we looked at our pyramid and seeing how that's totally flipped right now, even when we had kids in hybrid. And so how do we honor those pieces that have really gone well, and using some of that professional development we've been talking about to shape that work. So I will pass it on.
All right, it's my turn. Just want to let you guys know that all the elementary schools are doing many fun activities with our students. But I don't know if you guys know or have heard of Mr. Kolb. You may not like this. You might want to cover your ears, but there's a snowman on the loose inside of Parkside right now, and we're asking our students to help us catch it. Lucky for us, the whole school is reading the book, How to Catch a Snowman, right? How fortunate are we that we're doing that? We're getting students ideas of how to make snowman traps. Then the students will be able to make their own traps at home. Each day, a Parkside staff member will be reading a video clue for students as where the snowman has been. We're asking our students, can you guess where he was today? Stay tuned till the end of January, Mr. Kolb. Did we catch the snowman or did he get away? And that's just one of the many exciting things that are going on at all of the elementary schools. On to my partner. Next. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's me. And I think one of our biggest strengths with the admin group is that we listen to each other and we get inspired by each other. And with Redwood, you know, our theme is choose kind. And so when I heard that Kelly over at Lincoln was doing the book Deep Kindness by Houston Kraft, and it was connected to Character Strong with Barrett over at South, I was inspired to read it and just fell in love with the book. And so Redwood is doing a book club type study, and it was optional. And I've had, I think the last count was 18 staff members sign up to do it. And so we're starting that this week. And I pushed it out in my newsletter to parents and then mentioned it and kind of started this discussion with my parents at the last PTA meeting, and have inspired some parents to want to start maybe a book club with it as well. And it really just talks about that level of kindness that is sometimes difficult for people to get to. So really excited about that. And that's all I have. Passing it on to Robbie.
My help, I'd unmute myself. So I got my hands on this book, the Distance Learning Playbook. And one of the first things I saw in it was just a quick quote. To be clear, the pandemic teaching of 2020 was not really distance learning. It was crisis learning. One of the things I wanted to do was move my staff past crisis learning. So bought this book for every single teacher. And then we have really dug into it. It's broken out into modules, into two different modules about halfway through the book. Module 5, talking about clarity, making sure students know what they're supposed to learn, know the objectives, how to do that. And then more importantly, in my mind, the engaging tasks, because as we've gone through this, keeping kids engaged has been a challenge. So really digging into the engaging tasks, making sure we can keep our kids engaged with the online learning, get them going. And just wanted to make sure our staff could have the tools and the knowledge to make that happen and move it past the crisis teaching and actually into real live online teaching. And I think that's it for Riverside.
Very good. All right, I think we're back. Thank you very much, principals. We appreciate your hard work and dedication to the kids. And we echo your desire to have the kids come back as soon as possible. At least one of us does, so. All right. Our next item is 4.1.2, process of EDI resolution input, and Director Bloomquist, we'll turn the time over to you.
Okay, good. I'll try to keep monitoring the chat. For those that got here a little bit late, I'll just put this back up there. If you'd like to make public comment regarding any of the topics, here's the process for that. And again, I'll keep monitoring the chat for that. So in preparing a resolution, there's been a lot of questions about why do a resolution, what does it look like, what is the form of it? And so just doing some investigation about that. A resolution for a school board is just that. We're resolved to do something. It's a statement about an issue that's important, that we want to declare it and have a record of it. So that's really the purpose behind a resolution. You'll see tonight the whereases, and then we resolve to, which the whereases are sort of designed to call out particular sorts of things. And we try to make sure that they're all parts of that equity, diversity, and inclusion were represented in those statements, and then the resolution for them. The backstory to this, though, goes back actually several years. So the impetus for doing something like this, inspired by the state recommendations in response to discriminations that were viewed even at a national level in schools specifically, and for us to then establish policies and resolutions that impact equity, diversity, and inclusion. For the last several years, we've had our team for inclusivity, diversity, and equity meeting together. And when we were in person, we met monthly, actually, and that's composed of parents and students and staff who have been providing great input into this work. We created our first equity policy that was from May of 2019, which we have on the record. And then we've also been working hard to change our wayfinding to make sure that if you don't speak English as your first language, you could find your way around our campuses. And so, again, that work has all kind of gone into this. The context for this particular equity, diversity, and inclusion statement really is in the context of the words that are here. And we really want to think about it as being broadened out to anything is really specific to this work. Our own biases, kind of putting them on the record, and then working ways to improve them. So who's able to provide input? Again, looking at a lot of models throughout the country and the world as inspiration for putting it together. The information was sent out to all of our TIDE members a number of times. We have sent it to our regional consortium through the Southern Oregon Education Service District. We've had any number of people from all care to you name it have been able to put input in on this, board members, staff members, and we just welcomed all of that input. It was really amazing. The last board meeting, even though we didn't make the resolution, kind of put it on hold. Great input from folks that shared. A few of those are here again this night, so we're glad about that. Specific input on changing any of the words or the phrasing. Specifically, 16 people have given us that sort of impact, and so we've worked to incorporate that in some way, shape, or form. And then lastly, it would be, what are the next steps? So once we created the resolution, the board would read it into the record, we would declare it, and then our work then just begins, right? So the next step is to start reviewing our board policies, start reviewing our handbooks, and what are those next steps that happen? So we make this statement, and where does that show up? Well, it shows up in our handbooks, the way that we do our work with kids and staff, the work in the community. Staff development is a part of that. We would, again, look at everything we're doing with this new lens to make sure that we're taking these things into account. Those things would start showing up in our handbooks and our administrative procedures. They would start showing up in word changes to our policies here as we review them together. And then also just continuously asking for feedback from people. How is this working for us? So that's just a bit of the backstory to that. I would take any questions from the board on that, or anything else about the EDI resolution statement.
So Kurt, we had a group in the community that they pretty much are only receptive to phone calls. You're gonna tell us how.
Yeah, Todd, can you explain how we intentionally reached out both physically as well as on the phone regarding some of our families, so primarily Spanish? Yeah, we actually made hard copies, connected with folks. I think Brenda was here last time, Aguilera, saying it needs to be in hard copies. We reached back out to her, made phone calls to parents, and again, also the digital versions going out through email. So all of those means were used. We have the benefit of having Marlene Diego at the district office here, so she can actually call directly and speak to people in Spanish, which is a real benefit too. So utilizing all those resources to reach out to folks. Thank you, Doug.
All right, any further comments, questions? So we have, sorry, Todd, you want to flash that question up again? I didn't.
What's that? Which question?
There was a question that just came up on the chat.
Oh, I can read that too. It's just a member from our audience who decided who to be involved and didn't get any information on that as a parent. So Indra, just in response to that, so we went to our tight members, those folks that have belonged, those folks all got emails or phone calls. And then it went to our consortium partners in Southern Oregon, so all of those equity folks. And then it's been out to the board meeting and has also been out for public comment in December. So those are the ways that it went out.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, next item, 4.1.3 AP Stats textbook adoption recommendations. Director Evans, we'll turn the time over to you.
Hello, everybody. Actually, I'm just going to turn it right over to Allison Bolin, a math teacher at Grants Pass High School, who's going to share with you a little bit about why this particular book is being recommended for board adoption. Allison?
Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So I taught AP Statistics in California, but this year has been my first year teaching it since I moved to Oregon. And I had the pleasure of teaching alongside Sean Gross, who has been teaching it for a very long time and is very, very good at it. And so the current book that we have is used kind of more as a resource. And he has kind of pooled all of his materials from over the years and has the textbook more as a guide for students if they need some extra explanation. And over the course of this semester, we've really kind of gotten to know the resource that's called the Practice of Statistics. And it's probably the #1 textbook used across high schools across the country. And it has recently been completely redone to align to the AP CED, which is the course and exam description. And not only is it an excellent textbook with examples, graphic displays of here's the important stuff, here's the exercises, but it has really robust online resources to really engage students. It has a homework portal where students can try problems, get instant feedback to see if they're getting it right or wrong. It has videos for every example in the whole book. There's an instructor explaining every example. And then for several homework problems, there's even videos for each of those. It has online flashcards. It has really, really great resources. And it also ties into a resource that we've been using this year in our class, which is the StatsMedic website, which has a full like 20-minute lesson for every single section in the book. And so I highly recommend it. Sean said if he was sticking around next year, he would also recommend it. And anyways, I appreciate your time and I welcome any questions.
We are planning to, this is part of the budget process for next year. So we won't be purchasing the book this year. It will be something that will be implemented for the fall of 2021.
Questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you, Allison. I think you left everyone speechless as statistics does, so we appreciate you teaching that.
So Scott, I had a question. This is Brownell. So how many books does the district buy for a particular class? You mentioned the numbers that are taking it now. Do we buy extra copies?
Yeah, for this particular textbook, we're looking at purchasing enough for 70 students. As you know, year to year, the numbers ebb and flow, and Allison is recommending 70 books based on her experiences in math and input from the other math teachers. So we're looking at 70. If we end up needing more down the road, that's something that we've done with other textbooks that we didn't quite get enough of. So does that answer your question? Yeah.
Did you write up that number statistically?
That's the mean.
I'll trust Alice's calculation.
All right. All right, thank you. Next is 4.1.4, GP Custom Design and Manufacturing. Director Evan.
Yeah, this is the first course of several that you're going to hear about that are going to be new for the 2021 school year. Today, we're joined by Brenda Bungie in our manufacturing CTE department, and she's going to share with you real quickly about this new course, GP Custom Design and Manufacturing. Brenda? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right, so this is a course that we feel like we need because we have a lot of jobs that kids participate together doing for community members. A lot of people come to us and ask us, could you design this for us and build it? And we would like to see that grow more so that kids can get that experience. We've typically done it in an independent projects situation or those classes, and we want to get away from that because we want to focus those classes on preparing kids for their certification exams. So this class would allow us to have those students doing activities that are proposed by maybe people from our business partners. Maybe we have a big regional advisory board that we could work with and ask them, could you give us jobs to do? For example, we've done jobs for the Parks Department before in the past. It's been a while, but we've done them. We've done fencing for the school district and other projects for the community. I want to go quickly because I know that you're busy and my dogs are barking. We're going to focus a lot on the soft skills. I liked what you wrote, Trish, for the, I'm trying to get away from my dogs. I liked what you wrote for the course catalog. If you want to share that, that was a perfect statement for what it really is. The kids will learn all aspects of the industry. And so anything from planning, management, finance, technology, labor issues, community issues, health and safety, personal work habits. So they'll actually design products, they'll prototype them, and they'll fabricate them. Again, it's heavy on soft skills as well as the hard skills. So I'll take any questions that you guys might have.
The one thing I would add, Brenda, is that it is aligned to an RCC, and I'm going to get the number wrong, MEC
114.
114, which is a safety and industry course. It's part of a series of courses in the Certified Production Technician program certification with RCC, and we're hoping to build off of that with RCC support. So it's the first of several steps in this process. Any questions from the board about this new course?
Gary, so here's my Trish. This is a question for Trish. On those course alignment to get an associate's degree,
right?
Where does this fit in so that they can get a specific degree, not just the general, you know, yes, this is college credit?
Yes, it definitely adds to that. We actually have been working on the drafts of that, and we'll be coming to a future board meeting. Shauna Bland has really helped in spearheading that as we finish up that work. But yes, it fits nicely into our manufacturing pathway. So when we show you that, you'll see where it fits in.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question in the chat from Jael Hansen. Will there be dual credit available for college and high school?
Yeah, it's that MEC, oh, dang it. Brenda just said it and I forgot it. Yes, that course is aligned and students will have the opportunity to have dual credit earned in this course.
Right. I just have a question on the budget implications there. It talks about materials will be acquired initially through the district, but ultimately the clients will be paying for the products produced, which sounds fine. But then I got to thinking, does that mean that, you know, we're kind of like, you know, the district can be paid for work that students are doing by private companies? And I don't know if that's a concern or not, but I just had the thought and thought I should throw it out there.
Sherry might be able to help us address that. We've met with our liability carrier because we have done small scale pieces of this in the past, and feel like it is a course we can proceed with. It is, initially there will be some, we'll pay for it with high school success dollars, which are supposed to be targeted towards expanding CTE and enhancing CTE programs. And then when businesses start to ask for projects, they will have to reimburse for the materials that are being used. Does that help answer that question?
Sure, yeah, as long as legal signs off on it, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's an internship. Okay, thank you, Brenda and Trish. All right, I think that's it for our staff reports. So we'll turn to Superintendent Cole.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot. I just want to come bring something back to the board. Is we've got the little box over here that talks about the pillars of our strategic plan. We have on the board calendar certain dates, which we are going to try to update you on data and progress, both around what does the hard data look like, where we can identify hard data, as well as what are the activities that we've been doing and engaged in to support that particular pillar. And that is scheduled for the first board meeting in February. Last year's graduation rates will be non-embargoed at that point. We'll have data on 9th grade on track, as well as several others that we'll be able to conclude at the end of the semester. So just want to keep that on the board's radar, that is forthcoming. And again, all the reports that you see where there's numbers next to them are tending to those particular pillars. Okay.
So, I was looking at the board calendar for today's meeting, and there's a number of items that I don't really see on our agenda.
Is it the updated calendar?
Well, it says receive and approve Vision 22 standards review superintendent.
Okay, that was changed. We did that earlier, and there's a board meeting in which all of those dates were changed. So that hasn't been updated on the calendar. So now
it has been updated, but they must not have gotten a copy. So I will get a copy of them of the updated.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know, I'm looking at the website.
Okay. So we haven't put the updated one on the website.
Sorry.
I'll make note.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you. Board reports and special concerns.
I have a special concern, not really concern, more asking for input from the board. The property committee that we set up, that Kathy, Brian, and myself are a part of, just looking for some input regarding our agenda and priorities going forward. I feel like we've tackled some of the questions that as a committee we were tasked to do, but just wanting to revisit that agenda and make sure that we still want to, follow what we had set out initially, if that's changed at all, if there's any new items we want to look at, just so we know when we have our breakout committee sessions that we're actually working towards what the board as a whole is looking for out of this committee. So just wanted to solicit some of that input. Not something that I think has to be discussed today necessarily, but I would like to hear from the board as a whole to make sure that we're prioritizing appropriately.
So who would like to do a quick recap of what your initial charge was?
Well, the work we've done so far has included looking at all of the district-owned properties with a specific focus on Stringer Gap and that the lots out there. We kind of went down a path to understand what the marketability of those pieces of land were worth. And we've got to kind of revisit we're kind of mid-process as a committee there. We also kind of high level, just as a committee, wanted to learn about the bidding and contracting process for some of the property projects that we took on as a school district just for our own edification. But I think moving forward, understanding if it's such a bigger discussion because there's so many tentacles to what the property committee's research is going to inform decisions on, whether it's future middle schools, if it's new buildings for different programs. If it's for what do we do with properties that we own that we don't use. I think it's just an opportunity to revisit and make sure that that's all still the goal.
Okay. For my part, what I remember was the property was to pretty much look at the Stringer Gap property and help us get prepared for a meeting in March, I think it is, to do our long range planning. Other than that, I don't remember that there was any additional charge to the property committee. I would certainly say anything related to middle school infrastructure changes or building school was not part of what the property committee.
I think the property committee, as I view it, was, if I remember correctly, was asked to answer the question with regards to the parks in the cities and the leases that were upcoming. I do think that in March, when we have a broader discussion on future planning of the district and growth expansion and building use and property development, that the property committee can have some specific charges in that regard. Still think we're a few months away from really trying to tackle a bigger picture and then provide maybe clarity on specific projects that the property committee should look at, particularly bring information back to the board. So I think, like Gary, anxiously awaiting this discussion from a 20,000-foot level on where do we see the district in several years, what properties will be valuable to us, which ones maybe not so much, what do we see the future holding for us from a facilities and location standpoint, and then what can we do to facilitate that, and what do we need from a property standpoint, and what maybe we don't need, and what can we do with that. So I do think that that will, at least for me, that's what I would see the vision of the property committee helping us answer those questions as we get closer to that discussion.
Part of the reason why we wanted to ask is because we wanted to make sure that we weren't missing something, because our agendas were a little light, and we're, if there isn't a need immediately to, meet regularly to move any kind of agenda forward, I'd rather, pause those until it is time to do that. But that's part of seeking that input to make sure that there's not something that we're missing that we should be doing and meeting on regularly right now.
So I don't think there's any pressing question at this point in time, but I think once we have that broader discussion in March, there may be a number of assignments that you'll be tasked with. So.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, special questions or concerns?
I just have a shout out to the Christmas light display that the school did. That was overwhelmingly accepted by the community as we sat in line for days waiting to get in. But it was just neat. The kids, and we went through Riverside. Riverside was giving out, if you had the student password, and Allendale, I've heard just good things. The elementary schools, obviously killed it. Good job. You did good. We tried to go. Yeah, it's the line for too long. Yeah. So I was just super proud because the community showed up in such numbers to do it. Yeah. And so that was cool to see, but I didn't actually get to drive through anywhere. My husband decorated our truck with lights and put a bench in the back. So we had lots of singing as we waited.
I started right at 5 o'clock at one school, and I was able to go to completion and made it to all it took because the lines were that long.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, we only made it to 3, and just due to sitting in line. But it was great, very well received. Good idea.
All right. Well, if there's no other board concerns, then we will move on in our agenda to our action items. And we'll begin with 5.1, approval of our equity, diversity, inclusion resolution for 2021 through 3.
So at this point, I think just reading the resolution as proposed,
and then board to have any general discussion. This is a topic that there are a few community members who would like to speak to prior to the board voting. So it can be read into the record, all two full pages. I could do that on behalf of the board, or have the board chair take that role. I would be happy to read it. We're going to test my public school education. Would you like me to read it in Spanish? I can do it in Portuguese. All right, the Grants Pass School District Board of Directors and Grants Pass School District number 7 are committed to a school district that provides equitable access and learning opportunities for all students. We will provide a learning environment free from discrimination in all its forms. We are committed to welcoming and safe learning environments for all students, regardless of race, religion, gender, sex, or ability. We have begun good work, but we recognize we are on a continuous journey for the success of each and every student. As school board members, we are committed to actively interpreting systemic racism interpreting systemic racism and eliminating inequities in our education system. Whereas racism and racial discrimination threaten human development because of the obstacles which they pose to the fulfillment of basic human rights to survival, security, development, cognition, and social participation. Whereas racism, racial discrimination, and related intolerance have been shown to be added to behaviors that are learned. Whereas both active racism and passive acceptance of race-based privileges disrupts the mental health of both perpetrators and victims of racial injustice. Whereas we believe that it is the right of every student to have an equitable education experience within the Grants Pass School District consistent with human rights and state and federal law. Whereas how we define educational equity or equality needs to be changed from our current oversimplified concept that all students are treated the same, which has shown not to decrease achievement gaps, to meaning that we provide a barrier-free environment where all students, regardless of their race, social class, geographic location, or personal characteristics, such as creed, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, age, economic status, gender, sexual orientation, including gender expression or identity, pregnancy status, marital status, physical appearance, the presence of any sensory, mental, or physical disability, all students have the opportunity to benefit equally. Whereas we are committed to addressing the social, emotional, cultural, structural, and educational barriers that members of our diverse population may experience through policy, advocacy, community engagement, and professional development. Whereas student, parent, staff, and community voices are integral in building a climate of trust, respect, and dignity while creating opportunities that minimize disparities in educational outcomes. And whereas we believe that continuous improvement requires the courage to change long-standing biases and institutional norms. Therefore, be it resolved that the Grants Pass School District number 7 denounces racism in all its forms for its negative psychological, social, educational, and economic effects on human development and quality of life. Be it resolved that the Grants Pass School District number 7 furthers the regional objectives against racism, racial discrimination, and related intolerance through efforts focused on the elimination of all forms of racism and racial or ethnic discrimination at all levels. Be it resolved that the Grants Pass School District Board of Directors will, 1, pursue diverse racial representation at all levels, 2, call upon all staff to eliminate processes and procedures that perpetrate racial injustice in our practices, 3, call upon all staff to speak out against racism and take proactive steps to prevent the occurrence of intolerant or racist acts. And 4, promote educational practices about the alleviation of racial and ethnic injustice. Be it resolved that the Grants Pass School District number 7 is committed to the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion and will continually examine itself to ensure it remains an open and inclusive institution of public education for all its students, staff, administrators, families, community members, and supporters. And we will engage in this work with transparency and collaboration. And we recognize that inclusion is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
Be it resolved that our district is committed to educating ourselves and our community so that we can address issues of discrimination, injustice, and inequality as problems that affect us all. Be it resolved as a district, we vow to review our current policies, student handbooks, and staff handbooks to amend language that previously allowed room for discrimination and bias. In this work, we will consult with agencies to adopt and implement policies that ensure equity, diversity, and inclusion among students and staff. Be it resolved that we will research and employ a K-12 curriculum that is free from bias, that includes the history of discrimination, and is accessible to all students regardless of ability. Be it resolved that we will participate as a district, including staff, administrators, and school board members, in ongoing implicit bias, anti-discrimination, diversity, equity, and inclusion training so we can lead by example. Be it resolved that we will provide educational opportunities for our community to learn about systemic racism and injustice and develop resources for how to facilitate conversations with students. Be it resolved that we will develop a restorative plan for students and staff who commit transgressions toward others. And be it resolved that as a district, we will work earnestly to create deliberate change in our schools, not only to eradicate racism, but also all other systemic inequalities and consequences of privileges. We implore our families to share with us, learn alongside us, and reinforce these values in their own homes, and be it further resolved that together we can invoke lasting and positive change.
So at this time, any further discussion or comments by the board, and then we will take public comments.
Brian.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Bloomquist and all of the groups and all of the individuals and everybody that has given feedback on this resolution. I think that all of that feedback has made it better and stronger than it was originally. So I just wanted to thank everyone that had input on putting it together.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure to work on it, and the feedback's been really powerful, and proud of us as a district.
I want to comment that I am excited for that this is a continuation of the work that we had started previously. We've made it a priority in our district to be more inclusive. I feel like this resolution furthers that. I think to me, as you read that aloud, it's interesting when you hear it read aloud versus reading it, you kind of can take away different things from it just from how you're receiving the information. But for me, it's emphasizing in multiple places that this is a continuous journey, that we're not perfect and we're trying to get better each and every day, no matter if it's regarding equity, diversity, it's a whole other host of things that we're trying to do to improve the lives of the kids in this district. And so I'm happy to see that it's referenced in multiple places in this resolution of recognizing that once passing this, it doesn't mean that we're done. This is going to be a continuous thing that we're going to be working towards, trying to identify areas where we can improve in multiple areas that will just improve the lives of kids and families in this district. So for me, that's a continued step that I really like to see, and I'm excited to see what comes as a result for positive change here as a result of this resolution.
Well, I see this work as a beacon to the entire community. I think we're way out ahead of the curve. We've had an abundance of minorities in our community forever. We still don't know what co-racial mix is in Grants Pass. It's not typical. And I think that by taking this step, it's a very positive step for the entire community, not just the school district, the whole community, and that includes the county. I just see this as something that it's a masterpiece. I haven't read anything better, and I try to read these things throughout the state or wherever, but yeah, it couldn't be better. This is all inclusive in itself, but it is a beacon. And I think we can step out there and represent that every time there's an opportunity. And just one, I'll give you one example. I haven't been out much, but I did have an opportunity to thank Jason Garcia for stepping up beyond, way beyond his perfection in marching band music. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's known everywhere, and everybody wants him. But what he's decided to do, evidently, he told me face to face, and our wives were listening. He's really committed and looking at this as a real opportunity for him to go into administrative leadership as the dean or whatever the title is. I think it's just a wonderful move. And I'd like to see a couple more moves like that when their opportunities arise. But here you take somebody who absolutely loves what he's been doing for years, and he's the best around, and we've had that. Now we get him to help us apply this resolution in an everyday manner. Now, I only went to one of the gatherings with the minority students. There were, I can't remember, a circle of them in the high school during the past year. And I was so impressed on what they all had to say, not only how they related to one another and the way the circle was, they could look at each other all the time. And then they had the rest of the staff, school boards, whoever was there, surround that circle, which was, to me, a symbol of all inclusive. We're all in it together, and we've been talking that way ever since. And I absolutely love it, and I want to share that tonight.
Thanks, Cliff. Any other comments? Gary?
So a lot of work went into this, and I agree with the statement and the intent, and I'm glad the district's on this journey. I don't know if it's an occupational hazard or what. We had all these policies that essentially say you can't be mean to kids. I mean, we got bullying, harassment, all the things covered in here. We already have policies for it. And yet we still have stuff like that going on. And is this gonna help? I guess it's an acknowledgement that we need to do more. We had more than enough tools. I want to know why it didn't stop 5 years ago. That's the part that I'm struggling with. So having yet another document saying that I'm not going to have this stuff, it's like, just stop now. So I struggle with having another thing that just says stuff that we're already saying we shouldn't do with our students. The other thing that I do worry about with documents like this, I do appreciate how this document's evolved to get to where it is. And there's only one place in here that makes me a little nervous, and that's where it says consequences of privilege. And because there's no good definition of privilege, I don't want that to come back to the district, that someone who is, we call them either pretty people or beautiful people. I mean, we have the studies that show that beautiful people have privileges. They're more successful than the average or less than average beautiful people. Why? Because they're pretty. We're not going to create a system some kind of way penalize pretty people, I hope. So I just want to be clear that when we're talking about privileges as it relates to this, that is for equity, diversity, and inclusion. Other types of privileges like being beautiful or being athletic or being 6'8", even though they're privileges, we're not saying that there's a problem with that.
So noted.
I could tell Debbie unmuted herself, so I want to hear what she has to say.
Debbie?
Well, so I read an interesting book that I can recommend on the subject of race, and it's called So You Want to Talk About Race. And it opened my eyes to racism in a systematic way versus overt discrimination that we rarely see. I find it very illuminating, and I think this resolution, as Dr. Bloomquist said, is not the end. This is just the beginning of really taking a fine-tooth comb to the processes and systems and underlying systems that we just take for granted that might not be as filled with equity, diversity, and inclusion as we would wish. And so I think that's important to keep in mind that this is, that although we don't see very much really overt problems, there are still problems in our society, and we are committed to reducing at the very least and hopefully eliminating those through our efforts.
Thank you, Debbie. I'll just echo that. I think, and I'll maybe address Gary's point. In my profession, I get to meet with people and encourage them to quit smoking all the time. And if it was really that easy, we could just say quit smoking and they would quit smoking, and then we would be all better. And to say, we'll just quit being mean, that's great. I wish it worked that easily. I think the more that we talk about it, the more resolutions that we have, the more that we acknowledge that there's a problem and that we need to continue to work on it, despite the fact that it takes longer than it should or that we would like to see. It is a process and a journey that we need to continue down. And I think I would agree with Gary. We have policies all up and down the road that say we should be nice and love each other and care for one another. But it doesn't happen overnight, and we need to continue to talk about it so that it becomes enculturized, if that's the word, in who we are as a people. And so we need to continue to talk about this and push it forward. And it is a journey, and I think we just need to be resolved to continue down that path. So I appreciate the comments that we've heard from our board members. I don't think there's anyone else. So let's open it up to comments. Professor Bloomquist. Dr. Bloomquist.
Yes, so we've got 3 people that are queued up to comment, and I will have a timer and I'll call them specifically. And just so the board knows, I have Marlene Diego, who's trying to get connected to the meeting. And we've had some folks online that have asked, we have it read into Spanish. And so I'm going to try to help her get connected here real quick. If we can, maybe after the vote, we could have her read it in Spanish aloud, which would be very powerful. Something to think about. So first up, we have JL Hansen. And so JL, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and speak to 5.1, and I'll put the timer on and kind of just let you know when you're getting close to 3 minutes.
Hi, I am JL Hansen, and I am a proud Grants Pass School District 7 parent in full support of the Grants Pass School District Resolution for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I am honored to send my children to schools that uphold the equity of all individuals and lead the way in deliberately creating a supportive and positive community. In our schools, we have students of all backgrounds, lifestyles, and belief systems. Educators hold a privileged position to support, encourage, and show compassion to all of our students. Educators also hold a unique position of authority and influence. The trust placed in our educators is tremendous. Oregon law calls for all educators to recognize the worth and dignity of all persons and respect for each individual. Educators have an obligation to maintain this standard of dignity and worth while in the classroom and while within the community. I appeal to the board not only to approve this resolution, but to actively pursue ways in which this resolution can be implemented. I plead with you to actively recruit, hire, promote, and maintain educators who respect all people. I plead with you to engage our staff, students, families, and community members in a way that not only builds up people, but restores what may be broken. I plead with you to be a driving force in our community, to educate, to inspire, to heal, and to bring hope. There has never been a time in our nation's history where respect, unity, compassion, safety, and restoration has been needed more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, JL. Okay, next up is Alexander Vasquez. And Alexander, I will, if you could let yourself, unmute yourself, and I'll give you about 3 minutes, and I'll let you know kind of when you're getting close.
All right, thank you. I will get started then. Good evening, District 7 School Board. My name is Alexander Vasquez, a former valedictorian of Grants Pass High School and a recent graduate in 2018, 2 years ago. You may remember me from when I provided public comments on this very resolution just last month. I'd like to say and remind everyone here that equity work is never easy. It's never a one and done statement to bring up and forget. Equity and inclusion work is a commitment to recognizing inequalities like systemic racism, like discrimination based on the language you speak, your gender, sexual orientation, the list can go on. I applaud some of the actionables in this resolution, like a commitment to pursuing diverse racial representation in the district, as it is much needed and long overdue, especially in terms of who our teachers are representing and making sure that those are representative of the families and students within District 7. But it is also important to note that there are other provisions that should be included in this resolution or in continuing work by the district. Some of those things include a commitment to working on language access and engagement for families of color in District 7, so that families who speak other languages than English, for instance, Spanish for our Latino, Latina, Latinx families, have the access to language interpretation that they so deserve. A good example of this is in tonight's meeting, a parent asked for the resolution that is to be voted on today to be read into Spanish. And I believe the comments that were made would be that the resolution would be read into Spanish after the vote takes place. This is a clear example of what equity work could look like on a proactive basis. The district providing Spanish interpretation access in advance or concurrent with the work that is being done is an example of how you can continue to do equity work on an everyday ongoing action. Not only once someone asks for it, but equity means bringing forth the barriers that these students and families face and meeting them where they're at. A definition of equity and what equity and inclusion work means within District 7 is also missing from tonight's resolution. There is mention that the entire district will engage in equity, diversity, and inclusion training. and I maintain the importance of reaching out to local organizations to help facilitate these trainings from an outside perspective. Accountability and equity means setting goals in this work and in this field to create work plans to address the needs of students and families who are Indigenous, Black, and other people of color, and LGBTQ+ students and families. Good resources that I would recommend are the 2020 LGBTQIA work plan released by the Oregon Department of Education in 2020, this most recent year. And I'd also like to echo the comments right before me by Jill Hansen. It's important that this resolution be passed, but it's also important to see next steps and accountability by the district in an ongoing commitment. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. And then the last person, I'll keep looking through the chat because there's somebody else, is Judy Ahrens. Judy, you can unmute yourself and let us know if you're a part of this community, and then share your comments on 5.1.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Well, I noticed it when I read this, and you had that on your on the Facebook and your website. I just had many concerns about it. I understand you've been working on this for over a month, but I just don't know how much of the community you actually got input. I guess some of my concerns are, I just kind of wrote down a few notes here, is that I just don't know. You had mentioned down here, I think on one of the comments were asked, is that continuous improvement requires the courage to change longstanding biases and institutional norms. So I'm kind of concerned that there's something that the school district didn't do that had a lot of inequity about it, or something that now that you want to change, something's come to your attention. I don't know, through the community or students or parents or whatever. So I'm concerned that what I think of a school, because I'm 75 and I grew up where, you know, in school we had a variety of different races and faiths and stuff, and there was no problem. And it seems like today in our society, there seems to be more problems on and on. And I'm just trying to feel like, I'm trying to understand, and one of my concerns is what created a need for this resolution at this time. We know that if it has to do with students interacting with each other, then the students have not been interacting with each other. This proposal coming at this time, when we've had COVID up, I think around March or April of 2020, that the students have been out, they've been on, on Zoom learning and everything. And all of a sudden we see this resolution. So I kind of question why we're having this resolution at this time, because we haven't had that much interaction with the students off and on. They've been home, they've been isolated, they've been frustrated. Some have just done terrible things because of all the social distancing. So once again, my strong concern is that at this time we're having this, when we haven't seen the kids interacting. And when I've been at schools, not in this school district, but in other school districts with such a variety of kids, at lunch hours, they seem like they get along so well. And I know with the schools that you all have a standard of behavior. You should have something in your code, regarding dress code. I know kids can't wear pajamas to school. I don't think they can. I don't know. Or wearing Santa Claus outfit, in summer. Would that be denied? Is my time up?
About 30 seconds.
Okay, so we'll just wrap it up. So I'm just concerned that we have this right at this time. We're not having the kids interacting, and I really feel like there should be more interaction with the community, because we do have a very wonderful family-based, healthy, traditional family environment here, and those people want to be recognized also. And on one issue up on the first paragraph, it says regardless of race, religion. With religion, I'm hoping that means Christians. Christians could be Christians are very loving people. I'm a Christian, I've been a Christian all my life, and I don't know how this process here and the students that are Christians going to school, if that will be a negative according to them participating in this new policy coming in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy, for your comments.
So that's all I have in the chat. And then we were able to connect Marlene Diego, who's one of our amazing employees. And so she's now able to read the resolution in Spanish if you'd like, when you would like.
One moment, Todd. It looked like somebody chimed into the chat and asked
wants to speak. I believe the name was Indra.
I see Indra. Yeah, Indra, if you would like to speak, you are welcome to do that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I wasn't going to speak at first. I sent a pretty long letter. I apologize once I got started out to all of you. And I wasn't going to speak because it's a beautifully written resolution, but you're almost intimidated to be the naysayer because you don't want to be viewed as being uncaring or not inclusive or not caring about kids. I've worked with kids all my life. I substituted at the high school. In Sacramento, I taught English as a second language to a huge variety of kids from different countries, 30 different countries. So I'm very aware of the school setting. And so I guess I would just question, one, the timing of it all. I mean, this is a very intense emotional time, and I would hate to see it. I think it is kind of divisive in a way, not just what it says, but the timing, and some of the words in it are a trigger to some people who love kids and care about all kids and want all kids to learn without barriers. And the second thing, I just wonder, is there that big of a problem in the school? Maybe I'm not engaged enough. I've raised 4 kids through the school. I've been very involved from kindergarten on. And maybe I'm not aware of some of the things, but the teachers, I've never seen anything with staff or kids in that way where it's not welcoming. And I just think a lot of this, I don't know. I didn't plan to speak, so I don't have a beautiful speech written out, but I just feel like the timing and the divisiveness is not good. I agree with almost 95% of what it says. And I'm wondering, don't you do that already? Are you not hiring teachers that are compassionate and inclusive for all children? Like, what kind of staff are you hiring if that's not happening? I feel like it should already be happening. The other thing is, I'm very concerned about the materials and training and that are going to be chosen to bring this forward, because I've researched a lot of materials that are very divisive. And I worry about what exactly you're going to be bringing into the school. So those are my concerns, and I appreciate being heard. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for sharing. And now I think that's all in the comments there. I don't see any more. Yeah. So again, Marlene's available to read it in Spanish if the board would like to do that. And that's all I've got for you.
Yes, please. Would you please have her read it in Spanish for us?
All right, Marlene, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi there, my name is Marlene Diego. And, okay, so here we go. Distrito Escolar número 7 de Grants Pass. Grants Pass, resolución de equidad, diversidad y inclusión de distrito escolar. La Junta Directiva del Distrito Escolar de Grants Pass y el Distrito Escolar número 7 de Grants Pass están comprometidos con un distrito escolar que brinde acceso activo y oportunidades de aprendizaje para los comprometidos de un distrito escolar que brinde acceso activo y oportunidades del aprendizaje para todos los estudiantes. Proporcionemos un entorno de aprendizaje libre y discriminación en todas sus formas. Estamos comprometidos con entornos de aprendizaje seguros y acogedores para todos los estudiantes, independientemente de su raza, religión, género, sexo y capacidad. Hemos comenzado un buen trabajo, pero reconocemos que estamos en un viaje continuo para el éxito de todos y cada uno de los estudiantes. Como miembros de la Junta Escolar, estamos comprometidos a interrumpir activamente el racismo sistémico y eliminar las desigualdades en nuestro sistema educativo. Mientras que el racismo y la discriminación racial amenaza el desarrollo humano para todos los obstáculos que plantean en cumplimiento de los derechos humanos básicos de la supervivencia, la seguridad y desarrollo, la coordinación y la participación social. Mientras que el racismo de la discriminación racial amenaza el desarrollo humano por los obstáculos que plantean el cumplido de los derechos humanos básicos y la supervivencia, la seguridad y el desarrollo. Mientras que se ha demostrado que el racismo, la discriminación racial y las formas conexas de intolerancia con actitudes y comportamientos que se aprenden. Mientras que tanto el racismo activo como la excepción pasiva de los privilegios basados en la raza interrumpen la salud mental, tanto como los prepetorios, todos los de las víctimas se la ajusten racial. Mientras creemos que es derecho de todos estudiantes tener una experiencia educativa y equitativa dentro del escolar de nuestro distrito de Grants Pass, consciente con los derechos humanos y las leyes estatales y federales. Mientras que la forma de los definos, la igualdad educativa debe cambiar de nuestro concepto. Actualmente simplificado que todos los estudiantes son tratados de la misma manera y ha demostrado que no disminuyen las brechas de rendimiento para significar que proporcionamos un entorno sin barrera donde todos los estudiantes, independientemente de su raza, clase social, ubicación, geografía y características personales como credo, color, religión, ascendencia, origen nacional, edad, embarazo, estado civil, aprendiz física, presencia de cualquier discapacidad sensorial, mental o física, todos los estudiantes tienen la oportunidad de beneficiarse por igual. Mientras que estamos comprometidos a abordar las barreras sociales, emocionales y culturales, estructurales y educativas que los miembros de nuestra diversa población pueden experimentar a través de políticas, defensa, participación con comentario y desarrollo profesional. Mientras que las voces de los estudiantes, los padres y el personal y la comunidad son fundamentales para crear un clima de confianza, respeto y dignidad, al mismo tiempo que crean oportunidades que minimizan las disparidades de los resultados efectivos. Y mientras creemos que la mejor continúa requiere el coraje para cambiar los prejuicios y las normas y instruccionales de larga data. Por lo tanto, se resuelve que el distrito número 7 del Grants Pass denuncia el racismo en todas sus formas y sus efectos negativos, físicos, sociales, educativos y económicos en el desarrollo humano y la ciudad de vida. Se resuelve que el distrito escolar de Grants Pass número 7 promueve las objetivas regionales contra el racismo, la discriminación racial y la intolerancia resolvida mediante esfuerzos enfocados en eliminación de todas las formas de racismo y discriminación racial o en todos los niveles. Se resuelve que la Junta Directiva Escolar del Distrito Escolar de Grants Pass buscará una representación racial diversa en todos los niveles. Pedir a todo el personal que elimine los procesos y precedentes que perpetúen la injusticia racial en nuestras prácticas. Pedir a todo el personal que se pronuncie contra el racismo y adopte medidas proactivas para prevenir la ocurrencia de actos intolerantes o racistas. Y número 4, promover prácticas educativas sobre el alivio y la injusticia racial y étnica. Se resuelve que el distrito número 7 de Grants Pass está comprometido con el trabajo de equidad, diversidad y inclusión y se examinará continuamente a sí mismo para garantizar si sigue siendo una institución abierta y inclusiva de educación pública para todos los estudiantes, personal, administradores y familias, miembros de la comunidad y simpatizantes y participemos en este trabajo con transparencia y colaboración y reconocemos que la inclusión es un viaje continuo y no un destino. Se resuelve que nuestro distrito está comprometido a educarnos a nosotros mismos y ya está esta comunidad para que podamos abordar los problemas de discriminación, injusticia y desigualdad con problemas que no nos afectan a todos. Se resuelve que el distrito nos comprometemos a revisar nuestros políticos actuales, manuales y estudiantes y manuales para el personal para emplearnos de un plan de estudios de kinder al el grado 12 que está libre de prejuicios, que incluyen la historia de discriminación y sea accesible para todos los estudiantes independientemente a su capacidad. Se resuelve de que participemos como distrito, incluidos el personal, los administradores y miembros de la junta escolar en la capacitación continua sobre prejuicios implícitos, antidiscriminación, diversidad, equidad y inclusión para que podamos predicar con un ejemplo. Se resuelve que brindaremos oportunidades expectativas para que nuestra comunidad aprenda sobre racismo sistemático y la justicia se desarrolle recursos sobre cómo facilitar las conversaciones con los estudiantes. Se resuelve que brindaremos oportunidades educativas para que nuestra comunidad aprenda sobre el racismo sistemático y la injusticia y el desarrollo de recursos sobre cómo facilitar las conversaciones con los estudiantes. Se resuelve que los desarrollos, un plan restaurativo para los estudiantes y el personal que comentan transgresiones hacia otros. Y se resuelve que como distrito trabajaremos seriamente para crear un cambio deliberado en nuestras escuelas, no solo para erradicar erradicar el racismo, sino también para que todos los demás desigualdades sistémicos y las consecuencias de los privilegios. Rogamos a nuestras familias que comparten con nosotros, aprenden juntos a nosotros y refuercen nuestros valores en sus propios hogares. Y se resuelve además que juntos podamos evocar y en cambio positivo y duradero.
Arlene, gracias por leer.
Sí, de nada.
Ok, yo creo que tenemos más dos personas que quieren dar way. I believe we have two more people that wish to speak to the resolution tonight.
Okay, Brenda Aguilera, if you want to unmute yourself, I'll put the timer on. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me chime in on this. I wanted to say, as a Latino parent, ex-school district employee, and now a community agency partner with the district, this resolution is needed. And as Board Member Richardson said, it was needed 5 years ago and even longer. So thank you for moving forward, knowing that we need a change within this district. I just wanted to kind of chime in and express that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
And then we've got Torrin McKnight. If you want to unmute yourself, you have up to 3 minutes to share with the board.
Hi, can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Torrin McKnight. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I'd just like to thank everyone for putting this forward and trying to make change. I really hope that this actually does help and that steps can be taken to actually utilize this and make productive change to help the lives of the students that this is going to be affecting. And I hope that that just this can, I hope that you can make informed decisions that will uphold what this resolution says and that will allow the school to be an inclusive space, the whole district. And I'm still, I'm a student, I'm a high school student, and my school has had something similar to this for a while, and I think it's really important. I have lots of friends who are in the LGBTQ plus community, lots of trans friends, and it is extremely important that their gender identities and their sexualities are recognized and respected, and that proper pronouns are used, proper names are used, and just, yeah, I hope that this can actually just be respected. Thanks.
Thank you, Torrin. All right, I believe we've had all the comments. Is that correct, Dr. Bloomquist?
Yes, I'm looking at all my chat and I believe I've got them all. Yes, so we're good to go.
Having no further comments, we will entertain a motion to approve item 5.1.
So moved.
Seconded. The motion has been approved or has been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Tanya, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Member De La Grange?
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Amen, yes.
Member Wilkins? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion is approved and carried, and hopefully we will continue to be reminded of it and make it a living document. 5.2, approval of second and final reading of our revised policies and ARs, which are student suicide prevention and student suicide ideation, attempt, completion, and prevention. Do you want to do the rest?
This is one group and do the next another group.
So we'll do this as one group. So.
Member Durbin, I move that we approve the second and final reading of revised policies and ARs 5.2.1 JHH student suicide prevention and 5.2.2 JHH AR student suicide ideation, attempt, completion, and prevention.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Member Grange?
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Aye.
Member Wilkins? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Carried. 5.3, approval of first reading and revised policies and ARs. 5.3.1, school counseling program. 5.3.2, graduation exercises. 5.3.3, equal educational opportunity. 5.3.4, threats of violence. 5.3.5, public charter schools. 5.3.6, public charter schools. And 5.3.7, resident student denial for virtual public charter school.
So moved that these all be accepted.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Any further discussion?
Well, yes.
Surprise. Gary.
The graduation exercises, I mean, Kirk assures me it's not a problem, but the way I read it, it says any student who successfully completes requirements for a high school diploma may participate in our graduation exercises. I was like, yeah, they can only District 7, but Kirk says it's covered.
This is first reading. We will update that. Can you please make note? We will update that to ensure it's Grants Pass school districts only.
Phew.
Where would we be?
I was explaining.
Well, the only kids allowed on the field are ones in which we have verified because we attest to the school board that they have met the state standards. We can't make that determination for a kid from Hidden Valley or North Bedford. So by procedure, we guarantee that under the policy.
Any other comments?
This is Member Brownell. And I had some questions regarding possible uniform wearing at graduation, and hopefully those answers can be met before the second and final reading.
Yes, Member Brownell, I was in the middle of researching that this afternoon, catching up with some different questions. So I will have those answers for you and communicate out to the board prior to the next board meeting, but also answer those questions publicly regarding the questions you had.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further comments, we will entertain a motion or we will have our roll call vote.
Member De La Grange?
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Aye.
Member Wilkins? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
All right, 5.4, and I'm assuming we can also do 5.5 at the same time, approval of our AP Stats textbook adoption and GP design and manufacturing. We have a motion to approve those two action items.
I move that we approve both 5.4 and 5.5. Second.
Any comments or concerns? Gary?
I am looking forward to how Trish integrates that into the associate's degree for specific associates coming into a future work.
Well, I agree. We're excited about that opportunity for the kids. All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Member De La Grange?
Yes.
Member Durbin? Yes. Member Brownell?
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson?
Yes.
Member Coleman?
Yes.
Member Wilkins? Yes. Member Richardson?
Yes.
All right, those motions are approved. Thank you. 6.0 are future meeting dates and suggested agenda items. You can see the dates listed on the board. So Sherry, do we need any comments on the budget hearing?
Yeah, let's Sherry, can you go ahead and give the board comments on the supplemental budget hearing?
Hi there. So we approved the HVAC and LED lighting project, and so we need to formally adopt the appropriation for that project. So we have to recognize the proceeds from the loan and then the total expenditure amount, even though we're not expending all of that this year. It's a new GASB rule that we have to comply with. And so it will be that item. And then also we have the same situation with our buses. We purchased 3 used buses. And so we have to recognize the full lease amount as well as the full expenditure amount. So that is the purpose of the supplemental budget hearing.
Sherry, do we need to do anything with the ESSER funds that we've received as related to COVID? I mean, there's been a couple pots of money regarding COVID funds. Do we need to lump that in there at this time?
No, we've only received 1 allocation of ESSER funds. And so those were included in the budget because we knew about those funds before we did the 2021 budget. So those were included and they are in contingency because we weren't sure where we were actually going to be spending them. So I'll be bringing a resolution at a later date to the board showing where we're allocating those funds that we have already received. And then the federal government passed the latest COVID Relief Act. And so we will be receiving some additional funds for that. I don't know what the allocation of that is yet. And we would only need to do either an appropriation adjustment or supplemental budget if we were choosing to spend any of those funds this year. And I don't see that, based on our budget right now, I don't see where we will need to spend those dollars in this school year. And they'll probably be part of the budget for 21-22.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, at this point in time, we will adjourn our regular session. We will reconvene in our executive session. And then come back to our regular session of today. Is that confusing? Nope. All right, our meeting stands adjourned.
Tanya, are you launching executive session? Okay.
In our general session to approve our MOAs. We'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote. Please, Tanya.
Okay. Member Daley Grant.
Yes.
Member Durbin.
Yes.
Member Brownell.
Yes.
Board Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Member Coleman.
Yes.
Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will adjourn our session.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Right.
Thanks for waiting.